Part limitation.
So we've already done A, we've already done B, or we're doing B now. Or we've already done B, we've already done
So in the fall, I talked about at the beginning, right before the season was about to go live, we did not have the sponsorships. There is a gap there. I do not believe it's sustainable to rely on me or any individual to fill in a gap right before the season to go get $3,000. That business model is not going to work. There's a hole there. Also around that time, there were 3 people that negotiated our events at Guava Lamp in a meeting with Chris. It was me, Jamin, and Joseph. The week before the Guava event, Jamin came off the board. He stepped down. At that event, Joseph showed up late. He was the backup for that event. He did not do anything. In fact, he ordered pizza and sat there and didn't eat our hot dogs till the very end. He came out and gave us $5. No push on the event. And so I have an issue when you're making promises to a sponsor and then you're not following through. I ended up running that event mostly because Jamin had stepped down and trying to coordinate. We started an hour and a half late because I had to go get everything he didn't bring. I didn't even know what we didn't have. And I decided right then and there that we cannot operate like this. If someone is responsible for something, they've got to be responsible for it. So with that being said, there's also, we can go down the list of the sponsors. JR's is not coming back. I was out of town that weekend. Joseph had that event. There was no push. We had less than 20 people at it. So that's a sponsor Joseph got. He didn't honor the relationship. Same thing with Guava Lamp.
Well, this...
George's and Carpet World are good. Eagle, we're going to come back to. Guava Lamp, bad. Phoenix on Westheimer, I think we're pleased there, right? Heights Insurance, we're fine. Balls Out Burger, we're fine. So I'm saying all of this because I just want to start by taking the sponsorship and fundraising and giving it to Josh. I want you to chair that committee, and I want that to be taken out of Joseph's responsibility.
Hold on. I think there should be a disconnect. There should be someone that goes out and secures the funds, gets the funds, but then there should be a different person that nurtures that relationship, that keeps the relationship going. Like some people are great at getting money, but then you pass that role on to someone that's going to. And that's kind of what Jamin was doing, right? Mm-hmm. He was helping facilitate, but he wasn't going out there getting the sponsorships. He was just helping facilitate the activity that we were having there.
I think I can help Josh do that.
I personally also really want Joseph involved.
Okay. There's a transition process. I don't think this is a tomorrow. Right, he's no longer interested.
Well, no,
that relationship has to be handed off to you as well.
I would want to, certainly for the first year, because I'm still fairly new to say, I would want him to go with me to all these events. If he shows up late, that's fine. I can save face, be there. I have no problem running a lot of these events. But I still want him to be...
Sincerely, though, I have the relationship with the sponsors.
Well, we do need to... I want you to be there as well.
Other than Guava Lamp and JR's, those were really
the
his.
More people we
can
get on the board to connect with them in case you're sick or out of town or you moved.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's not just one person's responsibility. So
he's not
Mama, what you have to say?
And specifically, the ones that I'm responsible for, other than George's, would like to transition that to Josh. But I've got to get that off of my plate. I can't do all of these things.
I understand.
What I would like to suggest, and I was thinking about this the other night with a friend of mine, is that your coaches, your co-coaches, and their individual teams take a more direct, help with your sponsorship and your fundraising.
That's part of the...
Okay.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that, like in softball, you have to get your own sponsor and bring them into the league. Mm-hmm. You join the league, and part of what you have to join the league is a $600 sponsorship fee.
Yeah, but softball, you're also bringing your own team.
I know. But what I'm saying is, why can't I'm not saying they have to bring the sponsor, okay? We know our relationships with sponsors. We don't want a bunch of people out there talking with all these different people and harassing them. So we find the sponsors. But then once we have, like right at the beginning when we assign your sponsors, okay, your sponsors, JR's and Balls Out Burgers, then it is your responsibility to work with your fundraising coordinator on figuring out a good thing that you can do to make money for your sponsor. If it's if it's an underwear thing, if it's a bingo night, if whatever you and that particular sponsor and your team can make happen. Because what it is now is it's 4 or 5 volunteers or the same 4 or 5 people busting their ass to try to make something happen. And you can't do it every week, so some of them are successful and some of them aren't. But if the teams had a vested interest in this,
Which we tried this past year. We introduced them. This is your sponsor. I told every coach who they were, and tried to, just like you had with Balls Deep, tried to help develop that. Jamin met the Eagles manager. I took him to meet the GM. You know, there's nights of the week where I'm taking coaches out to meet their sponsor, things like that.
but
And
meeting their sponsor is
But I
different
need somebody to
than
actually
like
manage
assigning.
that as their role.
Yeah, no, and that's what his
And-
thing
and I
would
just
be.
think it would be great if maybe I can pick your brain for some more ideas, but instead of it falling on me or whoever our events coordinator is,
It needs to fall on that team.
So yeah,
It's that
they were the
team's
ones
responsibility
who
to
create
keep-
the idea for the social,
Yes.
and then I just sit there and facilitate it. We
Yeah,
do
what you
the
would do
PR.
is
You
call a
introduce
meeting.
them and say, "Oh,
Right.
here's Jose
I
at
have no
JR's."
problem walking through and introducing people.
Or we have our coaches committee meeting. You would get a piece of that agenda.
Exactly, that would be a
And you
fantastic
go through,
opportunity.
and then
As they're going
when
through
do you
signing
guys
their
want to meet
pledges.
on this, and we'll plan out that event. That's a whole role that just needs to be happening continually throughout the whole spring and fall season. We should have had emails go out to all the sponsors 2 weeks ago about awards.
Yep.
And contacting them by phone. There's a relationship that somebody's
should've-
got to be managing.
Yep.
And it's just not happening. I don't have time to do it.
Yeah.
I honestly don't. And work is killing me lately, so I mean, getting this stuff ready for this meeting was what I needed to do.
Yeah.
You know, so that's exactly what I'm asking. I want Josh to become responsible for it. Joseph's going to continue to be involved, but that, cuddling of the relationship, nurturing of the relationship is not.
Duly noted.
Well,
And
Exactly.
I will introduce you to
Duly
everybody.
noted.
the coaches need to have they need to have a buy-in on who their sponsor is then, because like classic example, my team, Corey,
Mhm.
when he on the shirt, he saw it was Grips. He's like, dude, I would never have chose Grips. He's like, I hate that place.
Right.
And he's like, I would not want that sponsor. And I was like, Corey, don't worry about it, because he wants to make a big deal. He will make sure the team. I said, we've already done our Grips event, so we don't have anything during the season. He goes, okay, I'm cool with that.
So in the beginning of the year,
a few seasons ago, we actually picked our sponsors, and it was our responsibility to bring people over.
so at the beginning of the year, I managed this thing, right? This is Joseph's. But
in the interest of time and not beating
What-
up on Joseph,
Right.
we have got 20 minutes to go through the rest of this list.
Yeah.
We just need to pick somebody that's going to take responsibility,
I got
and we can have the conversations.
Got
Okay.
and part of that is right over here to facilitate with Costas who goes on each jersey to manage that coach relationship with them and make sure they're comfortable with their jersey. As soon as we decide coaches, I'll be building the schedule for the fall and all that other. There's plenty of stuff to go around. That whole management piece just needs to hand over. I think.
And then as we're going through this, if there's a gap, we need to circle and say this is a gap. Either we need to find it with somebody that's not here, or that somebody decides to change their mind, or that's where the new board member picks up.
I agree. So
Just we can't talk
kind of
about
flip over on the back where we've got the committees. I think we're okay on these. We'll just start with that. Executives, I'm fine with who the executives are currently, and I don't think we even can change those until the end of the year. So, travel team, I've got myself as the city leader. Bayou City Brawl, I'm chair of that. Sponsorship and fundraising, I'd like to formally move that chair to Josh. So I'm going to scratch out Jamin over here and put Josh's name. I don't know if
He didn't
I
have enough copies of them.
copies for
That's okay.
everybody.
That's fine.
And I'm listening. I'm watching.
So
and
sponsorship and fundraising,
For everything.
I'm going to have myself as co-chair with Josh.
Okay.
And so that C moves over. Finance committee, I'm not taking that from Perry. We've been doing. Yeah, I mean, I'm on it. You and I sit and talk about it all the time. Thanks for your help also, Brian. Field operations is Brian. Let's talk constraints. How do you feel about that, Chair?
Well, I think that we'll go through. I mean, we're just talking about chairs. I'm fine with being chair,
Okay,
but we're going
cool.
to talk about this.
Bylaws and policy, I think we're okay there. Awards ceremony, Mama. Great job on the awards. Costas, thanks for all your help
I'm
on
gonna
it.
say I have a problem with the awards though because I was supposedly in charge of it and yet I knew nothing about like what we were doing for food and all that. And as far as I'm concerned, $6 a person for what we got was crap.
What was there?
Yeah, it was.
It was ice cold. It was mediocre. No, it was crap. I'm sorry. It was bad.
I didn't know what it was, most of it, other than.
It was
Thanksgiving
unedible.
chicken?
Most of it. I was not impressed. Let's just put it that way. So And I was never, that part of it, I was not part of it at all.
No, that was back to that meeting with Chris when we negotiated what would happen. They were covering that cost, and so they chose to work with Roy, who was another one of our sponsors. Roy wanted to be part of that. He was going to drop it down to cost for them, and that's how that happened. So it was part of the sponsorship agreement, and then we ended up covering it in the end
Yeah.
because of the mismanagement of the event earlier.
Nonetheless.
Yeah, we need to not mix our metaphors, I guess, and put awards and sponsorship into the same bucket. Okay, code of
I mean,
conduct.
we need to work that way.
That was something Jamin was chair of.
Code of conduct?
Actually, back up on awards, I had Jamin also as a member. I think that's actually more Mama and Steve.
Yeah, it was me and Casas that do all the award stuff.
I'm
And
gonna pull
then-
that away
and
from
then
the
that's
whole
gonna change a little
inheriting.
bit too.
Okay, and
I'm,
just
I'm fine with taking the code of conduct.
I was gonna say, I don't mind doing code of conduct either.
okay. So
It's not-
It's hard.
it hasn't happened in 3 years, 4
Well,
years.
it almost happened.
Plus, it kind of goes along with bylaws, and I know that.
Yeah,
It's
I was gonna say, it's very similar to the bylaws, and so,
Yeah. all right.
bylaws, rules of play, code of conduct, it's all kind of part of the same
Community
thing.
outreach is another one that Jamin had. Are you comfortable with keeping that?
Community, oh, definitely.
Okay. So you've got a pretty expansive role now. And then recruiting, of course,
Get all up in it.
that is Taylor, not
Takes
Bacon.
one to know one, girl.
I'm retired.
Oh, please.
Vacant.
Now,
Take my retirement.
I and
Gotta
Mama
do some stretches.
are helping. Right now, I'd like to step off of the recruiting committee. And Josh, would you like to be a part of that? Taylor?
I won't chair it, but I'll definitely.
Okay. And
I
Taylor?
still definitely want to be involved in it.
Yeah,
'cause
you
I-
and Taylor and Josh.
Right.
And we'll have a couple hours here in a minute just for that.
You're vacant.
Yeah, I am. I realize that.
No, she recruiting, girl.
Yeah, I know. I realized I was a member of that committee though. Not the
Rules
chair.
of play. I'd like to actually bring, now we've got our coaches, but I'd specifically like to have Braxton
That way, right?
and Stephen Craig help with that and chair that committee. Okay? And then quick ruling is out. So, and specifically Braxton and Stephen I'm trying to feel out if they want to become board members.
You have extra positions.
You feel out Braxton.
Well, I said videos.
All right, because we could sell those,
I don't do a
bitch.
shirtless photo. With it.
Oh,
Remember I
sorry.
sent him a text about
I
shirtless?
know,
I don't do that.
calendar.
Yeah, I know, if we
We
do that,
need to
then
do
we're-
a calendar.
Braxton.
We have enough
Well, maybe he,
cuties
like,
now,
specifically
we can do a
curates
calendar and make
photos
them
on
butt
his
big.
Facebook to make sure there's. Yeah.
Braxton's good for a calendar.
I'll be
Oh, I definitely want to get a
We would need to do a
I want to
calendar,
do a photo shoot for some posters and hang at our gay bars too.
yeah.
Okay? So back onto the front.
Don't use Joseph though. He's over 30. Just watch that.
We can just bend over from the back. That's fine.
So back over
Well,
on
everybody would know.
Right.
Damn it, over the calendar.
Wait a minute.
Sorry.
Back over on the front, we've got responsibilities. They're set in order. I'm going to trade out Jamin for Josh again, so he'll be the number 7. I'm comfortable with all the primaries that I have. As we get to coordinate sponsorship and fundraising and social events, those are the 2 things I'm wanting to transition over to Josh. The
Coordinate sponsorships, fundraising, and social events.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So you would become primary on that, with myself and Joseph as the backup. I'll just make myself the backup. Of course, we'll be involving Joseph as
Like I
well.
say, I
So
mean,
the back
really,
of both of those as well, then, Joseph? Yeah.
I am for sponsorship and fundraising, and Joseph is for the social events. He'd be
Yeah.
the backup.
Okay.
I think that's the best strength he's got. Processing financial transactions, that's treasurer, obviously. Although it ends up being me, it seems like.
Man.
Because I actually do the charge.
Yeah.
You don't have the ability. Coordinating merchandising.
Debit card does.
Yeah.
John.
John, okay. It sounded like you had some input as well, Josh, on ideas. It'll tie into sponsorship, though, if we're going to relate those two.
merchandising.
And the backup is CASAS. Manage equipment, storage, distribution, Brian? No, that's...
Why is that? Why is that not Brian?
I'm gonna say,
What does it say?
who is it?
Has John.
Me?
No, it's supposed to
That's
be
got to be a
Brian.
joke.
Hey.
No, because I think you specifically came on the board and said you would never want that.
No, you
I
never
did.
wanted,
Somehow you're the
he never
P.
wanted the one down here that said coordinate equipment, logistics, field setup, and game day operations.
Again.
So that should.
Ever again.
So that goes to Brian, right?
So manage.
Manage equipment storage, distribution, and procurement.
So just can we flip those?
I mean, he's been doing them himself.
I was gonna say he pretty much has been doing it. So
Well, I'm thinking of 2018 calendar year.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
looking
Well,
forward.
Cool.
I mean,
So
it
we're on
depends on
record
what-
of attendance at social events.
well,
Well, I don't go to.
I gotta
go
say
to
he
the
doesn't
events.
go to most of the events.
I think that should transition to Josh.
Okay.
Or Taylor.
Gosh,
Really good.
Josh.
I was
Well,
gonna
because
say,
you're going to have the sponsorship event that you're
well,
coordinating.
Right.
I was gonna say I don't mind helping him out with that. I don't
Okay.
mind doing that, taking over that aspect of the social event, because I'm at almost all of them. But there may be ones that I can't be at. So I
Josh
think
is
we're gonna have to
primary,
work
you the
with
backup.
one.
Between the two of us, we
Yeah.
can make. We'll
Well,
cover.
let Mama be primary and Josh be the backup then.
Does that work?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't mind keeping attendance, because once we get the rosters, we can just do an
Don't
attendance
give him
list.
everything, because he's gonna take a lot of stuff that I have keys for game day.
And just let us know, I guess, if you're not going to be at an event.
Yeah, I mean, if
You
I'm
know-
out of town or because
Full
I'm at
disclosure-
most of the events.
Full disclosure, the Halloween party, the record of attendance that I used there was 7 because I knew Corey
Yeah,
was
I did
there.
not go to Halloween, and
And
I
I
won't
used
go
the
to Halloween.
average of everybody else's attendance at all the other events for every other team. Because I did not have a record of attendance from the Eagle. From JR's, I had no record of attendance. That was
Okay.
Joseph's event.
It's not a
and
big deal.
only had like 2 or 3. So we've got to have a record if we're tying money
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. No, we're definitely we'll have a record, but we're also gonna do something different
Develop
about it too.
HFLL graphics for external use. Also.
Team jerseys and HFL, that's cost is
The next three
good.
are all
Graphics,
costs.
recruitment and advertising material, I think that's all staying there. Coordinate player and member registration process, that's
Brian.
Steve.
No,
Or Brian, I'm sorry.
Brian.
I'm fine
Steve.
with
League apps,
Who the
coordinate
fuck is
fall,
Steve?
spring draft process.
Brian.
that. I'm fine with that so far.
Secure athletic fields for fall, spring.
I'm fine with that so far.
Coordinate equipment.
logistics.
This is the one that we're gonna have to break out to fall and spring, because I can't do both. I can be the backup for fall, and I can do the primary for spring.
Are you up for election this coming year?
No,
Okay. So
You can't be the primary for fall?
no, just because that's Mario's main travel season. That's what's the biggest time of year that we travel.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
no,
is
that's-
would
I-
you be primary for fall and secondary for spring? But no, that's
No,
what I'm asking.
yeah, like I can be backup. Like I'll be there. I'll probably only miss like 3 to 4 perhaps, but I want to be able to travel. And there's a lot of traveling that I didn't do this fall
So,
just because.
okay, so to think about our succession and board, we're going to have 4 positions come up next year. I'm one of them.
I'm one of them.
Mama, who else?
I'm one.
Costas, Perry.
Sit y'all for.
So of those 4, are the 4 of us all running? I'm potentially not.
Oh.
Like I say, I don't know. It depends because, like right now I don't have a full time job,
Right.
and I never want to
We'll work
tell
with you.
someone definitely I'm going to do something because
Okay, so over our next 6 months, I think we need to actively look for somebody to help recruit
Well, I just think
equipment.
field operations
And field
is just too
ops.
big for one person.
Right.
it is. I agree.
No,
So-
Jared, we need
You
somebody
can't.
responsible.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can't.
No,
Jared
no.
shows up, but he's
Jared
not
is a,
someone
is a,
that can.
is a minion at best.
Yeah,
He's a helper.
he-
Like,
he's
and I don't mean that as a disrespect.
Braxton City would help.
But, but there's a difference between help and
and
run it.
and run it. Like go get the truck.
Like you need somebody responsible. Like I'm there every morning at 7 o'clock. And that's when I.
Whether
I
you
start to
drink
be
or
there.
not, or they're gonna be. Well, that's
I get
the
it.
thing
So
is we
let's-
have to
let's-
find someone.
So,
I think
just-
right now you're the backup.
Yeah, probably.
Or-
I know I coordinated your events
Yeah, but
twice when
realistically
you
for
were out.
fall, the
I
amount
can't
of
do
the
it
amount of storage
physically.
stuff, yeah, it's a physically demanding job.
I
So,
physically, at
I'm just saying that
54
that needs to be
55
split up
years old,
between
can't do it.
spring and fall.
I agree.
And then
So you're spring, and for fall, I'm trying
I
to
will
get
be
to
back
that.
up.
Is Mama the primary?
No, she can't be.
Okay, who is?
That's what we're trying to
that's what
figure
I'm
out.
saying.
So
That's what we have to.
is that an
we have to
additional
figure-
board member we need to
I
add?
think
No.
No, I think it can be just a league member.
It could be a league member, but you got to fit. I mean, it's got to be a league member that you trust and that's going to do the job.
Well, wait a minute. But
You're driving a U-Haul.
You're driving the U-Haul, and that wouldn't be covered under our insurance. The insurance only covers.
I think it
us
has to be a board member.
members. The insurance only covers board
Well, I
members.
always get the I always get the insurance, which is $10 a day.
Oh, the extra insurance?
Yeah, because I'm not gonna have to deal with that paperwork if somebody hits me or I hit somebody.
Yeah.
So I think if it's not in this room, I think it is leaning towards another board member we need to bring
But
on.
it could be the extra board member doesn't have to be just that. It can be
It's the
additional.
ad-hoc
Like
position.
I'm just saying that if there's other gaps, which there is, there's definitely other gaps. That board member can be a part of it, but it just needs to be something that's reliable and can do the physical.
Cool.
So fall fields is a gap.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
At board level gap.
Travel
Okay.
experience.
He's not assertive enough to be a board member.
Who is it?
I'm talking just to help
Implement
the fields,
scholarship
primary
program.
fields.
He's not very good with it in time.
What's the scholarship program?
It's not formed.
The scholarship program we haven't done because we just haven't been financially.
We haven't had financial.
Yeah, but the idea is that we would like find high school students, give them scholarships, perhaps even like shoes, cleats, other shorts, et cetera, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Coordinate women's travel team. That's you, Mama.
Yeah.
Do you feel good on that?
Yeah, no, I mean it's once we get enough
Okay.
women that want to stay with the league, but I think that's gonna change when we change our outlook of the league and the direction we're going in, because a lot of the reason why the women stopped playing is they stopped getting playing time.
Mhm.
Nobody wants to spend $75 and show up every day when you're standing on the sideline,
We
and
definitely
that's
need
what
to
I would
keep
do
that
on
as a
Russell's
component.
team if I was on it. I mean, I'm just being honest. There's just
Do you
certain
think-
teams.
Is the Bayou City Brawl a format where we could put together a women's team, or is it just going to be too high level?
I think it would be too high level for, especially this year.
I know Corey had interest from those girls of going to Fort Lauderdale, which is a February, and now we're not doing spring in the February. So
Yeah.
that is a potential.
That's a possibility, and I think that's something I need to talk to Corey about
Okay.
now that the season's over and see if he's
And
still.
then we'll push it in the spring, and maybe all those girls will play in the spring if they had fun in Fort Lauderdale.
I mean, if he wants to put together a team, now we could play with a women's team in the regular season, and they could be fine
Right.
on the competitiveness, but not in Bayou City Brawl.
Yeah,
Not
and that may
against
be
men's teams
his
that are-
team. If he's coming back as a coach, he may put together all women's team.
Yeah.
Award ceremony?
That's what I thought about doing.
That was Mama.
Okay. Development and implement charitable activities.
This is all Josh.
Yeah.
Charitable activities, coordinate community outreach events, maintain website, which we'll get to in our next 2 hours.
What website is that?
Yeah, but in the past, the
Which
website's
website
been
is
Casas, right?
Is that
Anyone?
the,
Well,
is that
I mean,
the
say
HFFL, or is
me
that
and-
the Facebook or the meetup?
You and Brian.
Website is
Website.
our website.
Our website.
The Hurricanes website.
Which is league
Okay.
apps tied into.
Gotcha.
He was asking which.
Coordinate advertising activities. So think of like if you're going to do it electronically for your events and advertising, because there's also a recruiting activity, which is other form of advertising that falls into.
That's the thing is, some of these things are going to overlap, and we can help one another.
So
Maintain social media
on
accounts. Is
on some of these communication pieces. I'm still not on the listserv. Not even receiving emails, so I have no idea what history we have of.
You haven't logged into the email yet?
What is that?
You haven't logged into the email yet?
I
Yeah.
haven't got any information.
I would say the
Posted-
other.
posted it in the group, the board group. They
I
can
did.
log in information. I can send it to you.
Thank you.
So I would say the other piece is public relations, which is our email communications and social media. Is that something you want also?
I mean, I sort of figured that's
Because that was
I
what
got brought on
Jamin was.
to do.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to take that on. I just want to make sure I know what we've
Yeah.
done in the past.
And we're gonna
before I
get-
try and circumvent
That's
that.
the whole other work session that we're
Yeah,
going
I
to
know.
do.
But see,
I'm gonna-
the key with that is all these things, the recruiting aspect, the sponsorship, the social media, all that stuff, I have a hand in that, because you're gonna
Right.
need materials and all that stuff done, so.
But that's our work session is to get you to train him for website, social
Right.
media, all that. That's what our 2 hour session is, and then also to plan out recruiting for you. And that's why you're able to go.
I mean, are you comfortable with everything that's being? I mean, that's a lot. Like sponsorship,
It is.
fundraising, just
No,
right
it is
there
a
is
lot.
one person, and social media is a completely different.
Well, I have your meetup. So
I
you got
still
Facebook,
have that
that's
as
fine.
do we need another board
Okay,
member
I
for
just
this?
want to make sure that
I have fall fields and
I
public
don't say
relations
that you're not.
as our two gaps right now. With fall fields, I also see that competition coordinator type thing.
I think if Braxton can do it, he would be really good because he's got the physical strength. Like I said, I could be there roughly half the time, and I don't have any problem getting a U-Haul or getting early if I'm there. It's just very difficult, especially if we got spring league, and then Mario travels.
So the public relations piece is the one that has to stay at the board level. So we can bring Braxton in as like a co-chair of a committee for sponsorship and fundraising and have him help with stuff. But you'd have to send the emails, and maybe like Taylor was not on the board, but he still has the Meetup app where he could do everything I couldn't. So you can have shared roles like that, but specifically the Gmail account needs to, it's our contact information that stays at the level of the board.
Yeah, and I don't.
And
have a
fall
problem helping
fields,
with Gmail every once
Braxton
in a
would
while.
need to be on the board to be over that in the fall. Okay, coordinate player retention recruitment, that's Taylor.
Why is it after Friday?
We didn't know from you yet at that
Okay,
time.
gotcha. I just wanted to know.
Coordinate member relations, volunteer initiatives.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Those volunteer initiatives are the same things that would relate to the community outreach, right?
Right. So basically, when you need to recruit volunteers, he recruits them for
He
you.
finds the event, I get the volunteers.
Right. And then there will be let's say they're serving beer, you're going to help coordinate because it's your event. He's going to get you the people because he knows the people. It works really well because you're new and he knows the league members, and you can get him to go. And you need to be the expert on all our league members, who they are, what their abilities are. Do they help retain? Do they get to stay? Do they need to go?
Do they have a TABC license?
Yes.
There you go.
I do.
And we reimburse them for that. It's about $11 cost.
Oh wow.
Either one of
I
y'all.
can renew mine.
Coordinate pugs.
Yeah, it's like
Taylor?
It's called TBC.
Coordinate
Yes,
pugs.
Texas
I got
alcohol.
that.
A key here, just a gap more in our procedure. You heard the feedback earlier of our pugs
Right.
kind of being.
too aggressive. Yeah, I know.
I
Yeah,
like the clinic idea.
I really like the clinic idea.
Well, the clinic idea.
The
is
clinic
that-
for kids or clinic for members?
No, it's like a clinics.
So
Oh, okay.
member
It's
clinics
Tuesday.
at the pugs instead of pugs.
What I'd like to do is I talked about Braxton and Stephen, coming onto that rules of play committee. I'd like clinics to be part of that, where coaches are there, but specifically those two, myself. I think Braxton and I probably have the best defensive knowledge of the game, and then Russell and Stephen as the offensive side of things. And you naturally there have 4 people who can run the clinics.
I think we
Well,
saw. I think
clinics
we,
is like a rules of play, right?
Yeah, well, your coaches will be on that board as well, or a committee, and so they'll all be there. And when we're putting together the season and the rules and all of that, they're there. But specifically running the clinics would be the chairs of that,
I guess
and
that's
whatever
what I'm
coaches
saying.
want to help.
The objective of clinic is to train players how to play football,
Yes.
Yeah.
teach
Or
rules.
improve players.
It's both,
It's like
yeah.
how to properly block what counts as bull rushing.
With
Okay.
rules, we'll go to our
Yes.
head official.
It's player
So you
development.
ask him
but I
to
think,
put together
I think
clinics for
we do the
referees.
clinic and a pickup game though. Like you start the first half
Right,
of the
first
day
half
is
is
clinic.
skills,
But and I don't think it needs to be. I think you market it as this Saturday we're having an offensive clinic on offense. It's not you're not going to cover both because you only have an hour, right? You only have or a certain amount of time, and you don't want to overload them with
Too
everything.
much information.
So and then you're going to have a defensive one, or you're going to have certain clinics that are geared, and you do multiple offensive clinics throughout the summer or whatever. But you break it down so that it's only a targeted minimal set of information.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm basically going to try and facilitate this with Braxton and Stephen Craig to start putting it
Clinics are
together
fine,
and bring them into the
exactly.
rules of play committee.
What I would do is, I guess,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you
Nice
could do the
ladies.
pugs at the same time as the clinics, and just do 2 games.
Right.
That's how I would do that.
Okay. And you'll be there for the pug side of
That's the
things.
gross thing.
So
Um,
Right.
Especially since our off-season is usually-
Recruit players for
He's
travel
always
teams.
contribute.
That's assigned to the team coach. Oversee rules of play. That's the rules of play committee. Not Russell. Coordinate game officials. That's OT. Those bottom 2 are actually committee and OT. Flip over onto the back at the very top. We've got checking account signature. That's set. Recruit candidates for open director. I'm doing
Technically,
that.
That's not correct. I need to eventually determine if I'm
Yes,
gonna
you do.
the signature, but I'm fine not having it.
I want you to have it. By the way, I do have a checkbook from Perry if any ever needs it. What I'm going to do is if I ever write a check, he knows the numbers that will come out of that series, and I will notify all of the board actively that, hey, so-and-so needs a check, I'm writing that, that's the only way I can use it. Because this is a place where I won't have a second person looking at it, but I'll have to still send him documentation of the receipt or
You
whatnot.
can always walk upstairs.
But I want to notify everybody. All right. Represent HFFL externally, that's me. Service parliamentarian.
These are the reason why these are different in a different order is because these are bylaws requirements.
Okay, so parliamentarian, I believe that needs to go to Brian
Yes, that
and not
that
Joseph.
election happened.
So, complete and present monthly financials, that's of course Perry.
Change your over that.
I don't think so. Oversee financial affairs at HFFL's Perry. Present financial status at annual meeting.
This year, Perry.
We do have, is it still in the bylaws that we have to notify them annually?
Yes.
Okay, then we need to, when we close our year, we should send out a correspondence of how we closed the year.
Okay.
Ensure, and that'll be, since it didn't happen at the annual meeting, we'll catch up with our year-end one. Ensure meeting or minutes are prepared and maintained. John, do you have all the minutes?
Yes.
Where do you store them?
At work.
Okay. Okay.
I might can-
Is it electronic
We
storage?
have the league has a Google Drive account. You should just store them all in there.
Okay.
I think
and the
we
Hurricanes,
we
Google
need to
Drive.
utilize that better. I think
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of stuff for the recruiting stuff that we can just have living up there. When he wants to put a social event out there, we've got graphics. So let's shore that up. But specifically, you should
Sure.
know how to do that too
Yeah.
and where to store it.
Okay.
But that's the only way we can have a common repository.
And it's the same login as the
Besides
league
website.
email.
Which is
Let's play football. Right?
That's probably where like
The league
social
email
attendance
is-
needs
Let's play
to go.
It's
We need to
it's
start using
Let's
that.
play football, all lowercase.
Let's play football.
Also, things like at a board meeting, if you're going to present attachments, let's say, if you're doing
Mm-hmm.
hard documents, let's go ahead and upload it to that area. And then you don't have to archive everything afterwards.
No,
We can
it's-
put them out
it's
there and people can review them before the meeting.
Football.
So I think we have a big thing we could leverage there to make things easier.
Okay, but if you're gonna do the drive, I mean, organize it. Don't just dump stuff in the root directory. Create a folder. Try to put some kind of logic in there.
Well, I'm not gonna
And
put
not just
anything in it.
dumping
That would
stuff
make
into-
2017 and January, February, March subfolders.
Well, like you'll have for you would have a folder that just says meeting minutes or minutes, and then in there you can organize it however you want by month or by whatever date of the meeting or whatever. Yeah, but I'm just saying, don't just dump everything in the root thing. We need to clean it up and organize it because I have some of the root levels too that I need to go in there.
Maintain a list of contact information for each member. This is one where I think we need to all have access to it. Like you asked for a list of rosters. I don't even have one from the fall. They went out to the coaches individually, I think.
No, I always send out an Excel spreadsheet to the board.
I don't have one from the
Every
fall.
single person on the board, and I copy the
Hurricane
league
flag.
football website. I know I did. Every year, I'm just like, here it is. After I do the league app, I just run a sheet.
Yeah.
I don't have that.
Well,
I'd look for it.
Downstairs.
What I just
I can
want is,
upload it there. It's fine
I
if you
don't
want
need like
additional.
all, everyone's, like emails and phone number. I just want names.
No, that's
So that-
well. I think it comes with emails, but
Yeah.
there's
Because
there's,
I want
good
to
to
just
have
be
all.
able to print the names of each team for these host bars and just
Right.
have it pre-printed so that when someone walks in, you go check, check, check. I don't want to have to be writing down stuff as we go. I want it to be a little list, real easy. That way, if I have to step into the bathroom or something for 5 minutes, I can say, hey, Taylor, would you watch this for a few minutes? Sure, no problem. Okay, I'm back. Thanks.
Yeah, so it's an action item. If you could, Brian, help us get a way to see the rosters. I guess
I know
we'll
you
see the
sent them
number for
to
the
us.
fall, but we still need to be able to get to it because I printed off all the rosters, but I don't have that one for the fall. Okay, maintain record of member. So I have that under John though.
Yeah, because he's a secretary.
yeah, he has to. It's bylaws. These are all bylaw things.
Yeah.
I can give him the document, and he just needs to make sure that he has it.
Okay. So if you have it, you help John get it into Google Docs or whatever. Okay, maintain record of member and director qualifications.
That's John too.
It's, it's just
Oh, that's because when they run.
it's for when they run, for when they vote.
Steward of official HFFLH records.
That's miscellaneous.
John also.
That's John.
Okay, so back to the agenda. I identified gaps. Okay, where are we? Discuss
Gaps in
current
ball
limitations.
fields and in public relations.
Yeah, public relations, social aspects and events. That went to Josh. Community outreach is to Josh. I also see fall fields clinics as well. Talked about Braxton and Stephen being part of that. Braxton sounds like a candidate for fall fields as well.
Possibly.
So first, we've got a board right now of 9 people. Is everybody feeling comfortable with their workload and they'll be able to maintain these responsibilities and be accountable to them for the remainder of this term?
As adjusted.
I'll let
As
you know
of
the
the
response.
Okay. Yeah, you've got a process of, we've got a learning curve for you. Understand that. So, because I think before we make a decision on if we need to expand the board or start going after additional people, because I'm kind of identifying Braxton, there may be others we can talk about, and let me know. Saul has interest. I'm going to try and bring him into the recruiting stuff we do, and I think he's good. We'll look for the committee members for that later. But before we add, I mean, we may not have to go to 11 if the issue is that the 9 we have are just not able to fulfill their role. Maybe that's a situation where realistically the person needs to relinquish that because they don't have the. So I'm trying to get a feel for, is everyone able to fulfill their roles for the next 6 months? Or if you're not up for election at the end, what's the long-term plan? Because that tells us then, do we need to replace you? Or is this an issue where it's just too much for one person and we need to add a role? And these gaps would then also be into that additional role discussion.
I like the idea of going to 10.
Going to 10.
We're at 9 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think mostly because at this point, I think Brian's role is actually a bigger role than one person.
Mm-hmm.
Setting up those damn fields every single freaking weekend for both fall and spring and all that, I think is very hard. But also, I was talking about it with someone earlier at the table. Social media is an around the clock thing for any kind of business or organization nowadays. And if you've got him working so hard on sponsorship fundraising, he can't also be doing all the social media stuff. And Jamin tried to do that for a while by getting us like on Instagram and all that kind of stuff, and he would take pictures that lasted about a month.
Okay.
And then he was like, "Oh, I'm over this." So if we could get someone that is that kind of savvy that, like in the spring, because they're not really needed necessarily to work on field stuff, well, they can kind of work with you some to learn what the setup is and what has to happen and all that kind of stuff, so that come the fall, they're your primary and you then become secondary.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout the rest of the year, they're your primary, like, social media person, getting on and doing little posts and keeping the league in people's vision and thoughts. And
So here's what I was planning to do. This Bayou City Brawl that's coming in January, I wanted to form a committee and specifically have those tasks being operated by the committee members. So I would bring Braxton on. He would be in charge of the fields. I would have him teach the tournament structure, so the rules of play, and helping design the coaches and all of that. So there's stuff that I do each year to prepare for the fall season. It's more like schedule design and all of that. I'd like to start teaching him that through that committee. I would also need somebody to be able to advertise the Bayou City Brawl that begins getting into social media and all that stuff. But it would still stay at the level of the board, but they would be coordinating
trial
effort,
runs
ensuring it happens.
before the
Yeah.
elections.
The thing is, though, if we get a person, they need to actually be sending the email. That still stays with me and Josh at the board until we bring somebody on. But I think the Bayou City Brawl Committee may be an opportunity to do that. But if we're comfortable now with Braxton and we want a 10th member, we can create that and bring him on and let that all just transition to him now. And he could still be a co-chair of that committee.
But he
responsible
already
for all
said
those
that he
things.
didn't feel comfortable stepping onto the board at this
Yeah, he
time.
wanted more time.
He wanted
He-
more time
he
to
kind
think
of
about
switched
it.
his tune a little bit when we met afterwards.
Yeah, he did.
Looking at Costas, because you were.
He was definitely, so I think the committee is a for sure.
Well, of course. I mean, he said he wanted to be on committees. There's
Let's let
several
him do
people
that
that have said
first.
that.
You want to get more.
And
And
you
I
don't have
think-
to be a board member to do our social media. Like you
No.
want the emails to be a
Emails,
board
it's the
member.
Gmail piece.
But setting up an event on social, on Facebook or tweeting or something,
Yeah, taking some pictures while they're at the event
and uploading, sending out a tweet, hey, hurricanes are at, blah, blah, that can be anybody.
Email.
Okay, so then I'm hearing kind of, you and I will still kind of co-chair that, because you've got the sponsors and all the social media stuff, but Braxton can come on and do all the fields and begin learning that role, see if he starts stepping
Well,
in.
and then we could also talk to other people too. I mean, think about the league. Who are the people that are on social media all the time? It's
Yeah.
not me.
Yeah,
But the problem is too, because I've faced some frustration with this too. Is like Joe would contact me and say, "Hey, we need an event set up we need to publicize that thing. We need the Facebook event for for George's." I'm like, okay, that's great, but send me the details. Like, what
that's
time
why
start?
it goes
No,
to
so whoever it is, they need
all the details you've worked out with the.
Yeah, because it needs to. Is it from 3 to 7? Is it from 4 to 6?
Do they have
and
any
it
kind of
changes.
drink
Is there any
specials?
drink
Any food
special?
specials?
Are they serving food? Like, I need all. I mean, don't just tell me to
graphics
set.
for each of them, right?
Yeah, and no, but like setting up the event's not the problem. But then now I have to track down this information, and
Yeah,
that's
no.
what takes a long time.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, if you just send me the who, what, when, where, then that's easy to make the event and do it. It's just you need that information up front, all the details, the time,
that's-
what's being served.
And that's
what's-
why whoever we bring on, it's kind of almost it has to be on a committee. Maybe on the sponsorship fundraising committee, because it's going to have to be someone that gets a lot of the information through you, because you're the one that has talked to the bar setting up this particular event. So, but if that person is on your committee, then maybe they can go with you and they get excited about the event. And I mean,
I have no problem doing the social stuff on Facebook. I already run the meetup. But I know in the fall for sure I couldn't show up to a lot of events. I barely could show up to games because
Yeah.
I worked weekend event supports.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I know the spring and the summer are easier for me, but fall for sure, I can host the events, but I won't show up to a lot of them.
Well, but we could, I mean, that's what we have to do more of, is we have to do more of finding people in the league that are willing to help us,
But
to be on different committees.
Right.
Posting the event could be one person, but tweeting and Instagram, that we could have 10 people
5
doing
people
that.
doing it.
Like they just taking pictures, uploading, give them access to the account.
Like Tony
Because
Johnson.
it's a lot of,
She's great for that kind of stuff once she gets back on her.
you know what I'm saying? We can give access to our
Dee
Twitter
probably
account
would
and
do
our
it for it.
Instagram to a bunch of people, and just because the more we have, the best. So great. Setting up an event though, it needs to be someone who has access to the details and stuff.
Gotcha.
But making a post on Facebook, just taking a random picture and posting, that could be.
Yeah.
Right now, we have 4 people that are admins on our Facebook page right now.
Let's get into this on the recruiting
Okay.
stuff, because that'll be the kickoff committee. It's basically tied into all of that recruiting and non-executive. But what I'm hearing is, so Brian and Perry, what I'm hearing basically is not creating a 10th role at this point, giving Braxton the opportunity to come on, fully support you as much as you want to use him. The idea that you guys had of sharing the role, you just basically need to know what he can't do because he's not a board member, with his mostly access to contact information. And then he can be on the Bayou City Brawl, and maybe we have a goal of going to a 10th or 11th board member by what date?
Our annual meeting.
By the annual meeting.
So I
I
think
think
this.
it's either now or annual meeting.
Okay. What about? And so basically, they would be. You would involve people through Bayou City Brawl and spring season at committee levels,
Correct.
with the goal of getting to 11 by the annual
Yeah, I
meeting.
would say it's either one or the other, because once spring's rolling, then we got nothing really to decide,
Okay.
except for loose ends.
And again, everybody, you're potentially. You're committed now pending work. I think I'm in the same situation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more than likely, stay on the board and go for the, and go ahead and reapply again in the spring, in the summer. But I don't know.
Mhm.
I mean, it depends on job situations. Because if I have to take a job that works on Saturdays, no, I'm not going to be a member of the board, because if I can't see what's happening on Saturdays out at the fields, then I'm not really doing you a whole lot of good.
Yeah, I'm in a similar situation. The current program that I run is worth about $110 million to our organization. We just found out that it's going to be good for about 2 years. It's transitioning all these quality metrics. We're building reports like crazy for that. We will report baselines in April. At that point, I'm probably done with that program, and it's time for me to go look for something else. If I do that, I'm kind of like what happened to Sean Ryan. If I take another role, it's going to be an extremely involved step in my career. And I realistically will try and do that after April, which says, there's not a lot of activity after that with our league, luckily.
Except for the annual meeting.
Except
and
the
then
annual meeting.
getting set up for the fall.
But as far as another 2-year commitment, I don't think I would be able to do that at that point. It is up to work. So I think you and I are in similar positions.
And we could have the discussion at the time if you're not comfortable being in the commissioner role, you could create an 11th position and perhaps run for that, and then
Yeah.
see who's up for
Yeah,
commissioner.
too.
Yeah, I do plan to go to Denver, and there's things I'm committed to as far as coaching at that level or something like that. I'm still going to do
Because
that.
I was approached about a women's liaison for the national board.
Yeah,
And
they really want it.
Congratulations.
And because nobody wants to do it, nobody's stepping up.
Did you tell them to make sure that they get the name right, first of all? That's not a Woods to Women's Liaison. The Director of Women Affairs.
So is there any other parking lot issues?
Any what?
Any other parking lot issues we need to discuss
Now,
with
what
the
was the
full board?
parking lot issue to begin with?
Oh,
No.
it's just anything that came up that wasn't on these agenda. I didn't want to
Um,
distract you.
I thought it was action.
I thought you were
I thought you meant
Yeah.
after
legitimately talking about like
Everyone
breaking.
thought it was a parking lot.
break-in? Was somebody masturbating or
Yeah,
somebody
everybody
raped
thought
out
it
the
was
parking
a-
lot?
Judge
Like,
Moore was
Happens
not
every week,
here.
let's be honest. It's
you
usually-
can't rape the willing, honey.